Ever get that feeling like you're talking to a chatbot
Yeah.
and, yeah, it gives you an answer,
Yeah.
but it's not really helpful? Like you're still doing all the work, like you needed to go further, but it just stops.
Right.
We've all been there, I think, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you need to do something complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You know, not just a simple question.
It's like hitting a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a piece of the puzzle, but I need you to do more.
You need more.
And it just can't.
Right. And that's exactly what's changing with this next wave of AI.
All right, so let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Welcome to the deep dive, where today we're looking at something called Agentic AI.
Agentic AI.
And we're going to be using NVIDIA's blog post as our guide.
Okay.
From October 22nd, 2024.
All right.
So a little ways back,
yeah.
Just a quick heads up, they have updated some of their terminology.
Okay.
What they were originally calling NIM agent blueprints is now called NVIDIA blueprints.
NVIDIA blueprints.
But we're going to dive into all of that and give you a clear picture of what Agentic AI is, how it actually functions, and why it's causing so much buzz across all kinds of different industries.
Absolutely. And this isn't just like an incremental upgrade
Right.
to AI as we know it. This is a big step forward in what AI can actually do.
Yeah, and why should our listeners care about this?
Well,
why are we spending our time today talking about this?
I think whether you are in technology or business strategy, healthcare innovation, or you just have a curious mind, I think this is one of those topics where you're going to have some real aha moments.
Right, this is going to change things.
It's going to change.
And it's really exciting to kind of see where this is headed.
Yeah, it is. And the big thing here is the word autonomously.
Okay.
You know, so NVIDIA defines agentic AI as using sophisticated reasoning and iterative planning to autonomously solve complex multi-step problems.
So that's a mouthful.
It is.
But let's break that down. So autonomously. That seems to be like the key word there.
It is the key word.
Like it can kind of do its own thing.
It can do it itself, which is what separates it from from
what we're used to.
The chatbots we're used to.
Right, like the things that we're using now.
Exactly.
Those aren't really autonomous.
They're not.
They need us to kind of...
They need our input.
Hold their hand through the whole process.
Exactly.
So, for example, I think a lot of people are familiar with those customer service chatbots.
Yeah.
We see those online all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they can answer some basic questions.
Yep.
Maybe look up some information for you. But the example that NVIDIA uses is a really good one to illustrate how this is different.
Yeah.
So they talk about an AI agent that could not only tell you your account balance, but it could also analyze your spending, suggest ways to manage your debt.
Wow.
And even guide you through making a payment, all while waiting for your input at each step of the way.
So it's not just giving you the answer and stopping there.
Exactly. It's actually
going through the whole process.
Taking you through the process.
With you. Yeah. And what's interesting there is it's going from just reacting to what you asked to proactively trying to solve a problem.
Right.
Like it's not just waiting for instructions. It understands what it needs to do and it takes the initiative to get it done.
Yeah, so it's not just sitting there like waiting for the next command.
Right.
It's like, I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure this out.
Exactly.
So there's a really interesting 4-stage process that NVIDIA talks about here. So let's dig into that.
Okay.
What are the steps that allow the agentic AI to operate in this way?
Okay, so the first step is perceive.
Perceive, okay.
So this is all about how the AI agent gathers information about whatever situation it's dealing with.
Okay.
Think of it like it senses.
Okay.
It's taking in data from a bunch of different sources, everything from sensors and databases to websites and digital interfaces.
All right, so like all the things that it can access.
All the things it can access.
Okay.
But it's not just passively collecting this data.
Right.
It's actually filtering it, extracting the important bits,
Yeah, okay.
recognizing patterns,
Right.
identifying what's relevant to the task at hand.
So it's understanding the context.
It's understanding the context.
Right. It's not just looking at raw data. It's actually interpreting it.
Right.
To understand what's going on.
Exactly. And then once it understands the context, then it moves on to the next stage, which is reason.
Reason.
So this is where the large language model, you know, the brain behind all this.
Yeah, the LLM.
The LLM.
Okay.
Really comes into play.
Okay.
NVIDIA calls it the orchestrator or the reasoning engine.
Okay.
Because its job is to understand the goal that you've given it.
Right.
And then figure out the best way to achieve that goal. And it might need to use other more specialized AI models to get there.
All right, so it's like coordinating different things.
It's coordinating. Maybe it needs to create images or analyze videos. Or make recommendations.
All right, so it's using all the tools in its toolbox.
Using all the tools.
To get to that end goal.
Exactly.
And one thing that NVIDIA mentions here that's important is RAG.
Wow.
Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What exactly is that?
Okay, so RAG is basically like giving the AI agent access to the company's own private knowledge base.
Okay, so it's not just using Google.
It's not just using Google.
Right.
It has access to
the internal documents,
the company's private data.
Okay.
So when it's reasoning and trying to solve problems, it's not just relying on general information from the internet.
It's using what the company already knows.
Exactly. It's tailoring its output to that organization's specific needs.
So it's like having an assistant that has all of the company's secret information.
All the secret information.
Right.
All the knowledge.
That they can draw on
to
make sure that what it's doing is accurate and relevant.
That's right.
Okay, so after the AI has reasoned through the problem and it's come up with a plan, the third step is act.
Act.
So this is where it actually gets things done.
This is where the rubber hits the road.
Right. It's not just thinking about it, it's actually doing it.
Doing it.
So how does that work?
So it integrates with other software applications and tools through APIs.
Okay.
So those are like the connections that allow different systems to talk to each other and work together. So it's actually executing the steps that it's come up with.
And I saw that NVIDIA mentions something called guardrails.
Yeah, guardrails.
So what are those?
Guardrails are really important because they make sure that the AI is operating responsibly and ethically.
Okay.
They're like rules and limits
that are built in to prevent the AI from doing things that it's not supposed to do.
Right.
Or that could be harmful.
Okay.
So for example, in that customer service example, the guardrails might say that the AI can only approve transactions up to a certain amount.
Right.
Anything bigger than that needs a human to look at it.
Okay, so it can do some things on its own.
Right.
But the really important things, a human still needs to be involved.
Needs to be in the loop.
Okay.
To make sure everything is okay.
So it's about giving the AI some autonomy.
Yeah.
But also maintaining that oversight.
That control.
And control.
That's right.
Okay, so what's the final piece of this puzzle?
The final piece is learn.
Learn.
So agentic AI isn't just a static thing.
Right.
It's constantly improving.
Okay.
Through what NVIDIA calls a feedback loop or a data flywheel.
Okay.
So every interaction it has, every task it completes, it generates new data.
And then that data is fed back into the system.
Okay.
And it allows the AI to refine and improve itself over time.
So every time it does something, it gets a little bit smarter.
It gets a little bit smarter.
Okay.
And more effective.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it's a very powerful idea.
Yeah. And it seems like to do all that processing and learning it would need a ton of data.
Oh, yeah.
So how does it handle that?
So you're absolutely right. Data is essential for all of this.
Okay.
And NVIDIA talks about the role of accelerated AI query engines.
Okay.
So these are special systems that are designed to handle those massive data sets that are needed for all of this to train and operate these AI models. And our
retrieval augmented generation.
Retrieval augmented generation is really important here because it allows the AI to access and use the right information from those huge data stores when it needs it.
So it's like a really efficient librarian.
Yeah, a super efficient librarian for AI.
For AI.
That's right.
So it's not just about having a lot of data. It's about being able to use it effectively.
Use it effectively.
And quickly.
All right, so let's talk about some real-world applications here.
Okay.
Where are we actually seeing this being used?
So the blog post highlights some really interesting industry applications.
Okay.
So let's start with customer service.
All right.
Since we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
It seems like this could really change the game for how businesses interact with their customers.
Definitely. And NVIDIA actually cites some statistics here that over half of service professionals are already seeing big improvements in their customer interactions. Faster response times and increased customer satisfaction.
So everyone's happier.
Right. Like, customers are happier.
Yeah.
The agents are happier.
Yeah.
Because these AI agents can handle
Right.
those really complex interactions. That would normally be really frustrating for everybody involved.
Yeah, and it's not just answering simple questions anymore.
Right.
It's actually handling those multi-step issues.
Yeah, that's the key.
And then they also talk about the growing interest in digital humans.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
It is.
So these are like the more lifelike,
more engaged,
engaging AI interfaces.
Yeah, like you feel like you're talking to a real person.
Right.
But it's still AI.
Which could make those interactions even more natural and personalized.
Right, and that's a big thing. That human-like interaction is really key.
Yeah.
So beyond customer service, let's think about content creation.
Okay, content creation.
So imagine AI agents that can just whip up marketing materials.
Okay.
Tailored for specific audiences.
Right, so like personalized content.
Personalized content.
Okay.
And NVIDIA says that this could save marketers an average of 3 hours per piece of content.
3 hours? That's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time.
So think about what marketers could do with that extra time.
I know, right?
Like they could be more strategic.
Yeah. More strategic planning.
More creative.
More innovative campaigns.
Instead of just churning out.
Instead of just doing the busy work.
Yeah, the busy work.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about software development?
Oh, yeah. Software development's another big one.
I feel like that's an area where automation could have a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where do you see that going?
So we're already starting to see AI agents being used to automate those repetitive coding tasks.
Yeah.
You know, the stuff that takes up a lot of developer time.
The stuff that's not very fun.
It's not the fun stuff.
Right.
And they're actually predicting that AI could automate up to 30% of work hours for developers.
Wow. 30%.
By 2030.
By 2030, that's a huge amount.
That's huge.
Of time.
And think about what developers could do with that time.
Right, so they could be working on more complex problems.
More innovative projects.
Yeah.
You know, really pushing the boundaries.
So potentially we could get higher quality software.
Much higher quality.
Faster. Because the developers are focused on the really important things.
Important stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so healthcare, that's another big area.
Oh, yeah. Healthcare is huge.
And I feel like there are so many potential applications here.
There really are.
So where do you see this having the biggest impact?
So imagine doctors using AI agents to analyze tons of medical data.
Okay.
So patient data research findings, medical literature, and then they can use that information to make better decisions.
So more informed decisions.
More informed.
About diagnoses, treatment, and even on the administrative side.
Yeah, the administrative side's huge too.
Like all that paperwork.
All that paperwork.
The doctors have to deal with.
So AI could handle things like clinical notes, scheduling appointments, even sending medication reminders.
Oh, that's a good one.
So it frees up the doctors to actually spend time with their patients.
Right. So it brings back that human element.
The human element.
Yeah.
That's often missing.
Because doctors are so bogged down.
So bogged down with paperwork.
With everything else.
Yeah.
So medication reminders, I think that's a big one.
That's here.
Because if people are reminded to take their medication, they're more likely to actually do it.
More likely to adhere to their treatment plans.
Right. Which leads to better outcomes.
Better outcomes for everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And the last application that NVIDIA highlights is video analytics.
Video analytics.
So what's happening there?
So this is really interesting for enterprises and the public sector.
Okay.
So imagine AI agents that can analyze video streams.
Okay.
From security cameras, traffic cameras.
Okay.
All kinds of sources.
Yeah.
And they can automatically search for specific events.
Okay.
They can summarize long videos, answer questions based on what they see.
So like visual question answering.
Visual question answering. And they can even identify anomalies.
Like something that's out of place.
Something out of place.
Okay.
Or a potential security risk.
So it's like having an extra set of eyes.
Multiple sets of eyes.
Right, that are watching everything.
Constant walking.
And can alert you if something's wrong.
Exactly.
So that could be really useful for security monitoring, traffic management, even quality control in factories.
Quality control.
So it's really bringing AI into the physical world.
Yeah, it's bridging that gap.
Through these video feeds.
Exactly.
Okay, so for our listeners who are thinking this is great,
but
how do I actually start using this?
Yeah, where do I begin?
NVIDIA does give some guidance here.
Okay.
They point to something called NVIDIA blueprints.
NVIDIA blueprints.
So what exactly are those?
So NVIDIA blueprints are basically a collection of resources designed to help people develop and adopt these agentic AI systems. So it includes things like sample applications that you can look at code that you can use to get started, sample data sets, and documentation to help guide you.
So everything you need to get up and running.
Get up and running.
And they also mentioned that they're working with companies like Accenture to help businesses actually implement this.
Yeah, so they're partnering to make it easier for businesses to bring this technology into their workflows.
All right, so it's not just a concept. There are actual tools.
There are tools.
And partnerships. To help you make this happen.
To make it a reality.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. What are the key takeaways from our deep dive into agentic AI?
So I think the big takeaway is that agentic AI is a fundamental shift from AI that just responds to commands to AI that can solve problems on its own. Autonomously.
Right.
And it does this through sophisticated reasoning, planning, and action. And it's powered by massive amounts of data. And it's constantly learning and improving.
So it's only going to get better.
It's only going to get better.
Right.
And we've seen how it can be applied across all sorts of industries to really improve productivity.
And make things more efficient.
More efficient.
Okay.
So for you, the listener, this is a big deal because it means AI can do so much more than just help us with simple tasks.
Right. Like it can actually augment our capabilities.
Exactly.
In really meaningful ways.
And that's going to have an impact on your work, your daily life, the industries you follow.
Yeah, like everything.
Yeah, everything.
And if you want to learn more.
If you want to go deeper.
About the tools that NVIDIA has to offer.
Yeah, the specific tools and software.
They encourage you to visit ai.nvidia.com.
ai.nvidia.com.
Okay, so to wrap things up, here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
As these AI agents become more sophisticated, what new opportunities and challenges?
That's the question.
Might we encounter in the years ahead?
Yeah, what's going to happen?
Think about how things could change when AI can really act on its own.
Right, when it can take initiative.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world.
It really is.
We're just scratching the surface here.
So much potential.
So much potential.
All right, that's our deep dive into agentic AI.
That was great.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.